Hello guys, welcome. My name is Carlos Salazar, the food dude, and I'm glad to be back here with you today. I'm gonna be talking about hemp. So hemp is one of those plants on this earth that have probably the most amazing potential, not only in terms of medicinal properties and nutritional properties, but also has the potential to help mankind as a whole, cleansing the earth, allowing us to produce many different products like plastics and ropes and clothes, and it could be the replacement for many things that we use today that are not sustainable. I also want to talk to you about a few products that I was able to find in my local health food store. And as you can see, they all say hemp. So what is the difference between hemp and marijuana? How come that this plant, this innocent looking plant, is so misunderstood and in many areas it's actually illegal for you to own? Don't worry, it's perfectly legal where I am to have this beautiful little plant. I just wanted to show it to you. But in many places it's not. And so why is that you are still able to get hemp products in places such as Australia, which I wouldn't be able to have this plant in Australia, but you can still have these products in your health food store. The difference is that when we talk about hemp and marijuana, we're talking about the same thing pretty much. We're talking about limes and lemons. So we're talking about the cannabis plant. The cannabis plant have different strains, most prominently the cannabis sativa and the cannabis indica. And the difference that's gonna decide whether a plant is cannabis for high, getting a high and the psychoactive effects is the amount of a constituent called THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the compound within the plant that can give you a high when you smoke or you inhale. Hemp, on the other hand, is not very rich in these compounds. So it has bred specifically to have less than 0.3% THC in itself. So if you're able to get a plant like that, you will be able to grow it mostly everywhere around the world, and you'll be able to use it for, as I say, products for health or clothes and ropes and sails and canvases and paper and a million more uses that you can give to hemp. So no amount of hemp products that you consume is gonna ever give you a high because it doesn't have enough of that THC compound in it. What it does have is the medicinal compound, which is CBD, cannabidiol, which is the second largest compound in this plant, and it has been associated with pretty much all its medicinal properties. The use of hemp goes back for thousands of years, so early records of its usage are from China. So in the 1800s, the Chinese were using it to cure rabies, rheumatism, asthma, malaria, convulsions. And then in 600 BC in India, we have records of the Indian people using it to treat gout, cholera, dysentery, opiate addiction, even leprosy. And then in Europe, in the Middle Ages, we also have records of its usage, and it was used prominently for muscle spasms, insomnia, fevers, tetanus, and the Queen Victoria was known to use hemp to treat her menstrual cramps. So let's talk about the plant itself first. So this little plant is just a baby, but it's gonna grow very tall and very high. And one of the parts that we can examine first is the outer stalk. So the outer stalk of the plant is very fibrous, and this is why we historically have been able to use it to make ropes and fibers and sails, canvases, which is where cannabis word come from canvases, and then also paper, textile, fabrics, bags, carpets, towels, shoes. And in general, this plant requires a much less aggressive agriculture than cotton. For instance, 1 acre of this plant will yield 4 times more fiber than cotton. And it also needs half the water and much less pesticides and herbicides because this plant, its natural chemicals are going to fight all the weeds around it.
And basically I'm just waiting for someone to invent a hemp tampon.
Now let's talk about the inner stalk of the plant. The inner stalk of the plant have recently been used to make a thing called hempcrete, which is a replacement for concrete. So if you build a house or even a building or a complex made of hempcrete, you will spend less money you will have just a good product as concrete, but without all the chemicals and the toxic elements that concrete has. It's much cheaper, it lasts just as long, and the walls are going to be able to breathe in and out. And in that, it's going to be capturing CO2, so it's going to cleanse the air that is inside the building itself. It also has properties for insulation, and it captures CO2 from the air, which is amazing.
I look at the range of materials out there. I cannot find one to match hemp. I can't find one that has such a low embodied energy, that locks carbon in, that has such a low environmental impact, that can be grown locally and harvested with minimum inputs in a matter of just a few months. Instead of pouring out heavy, wet, toxic, caustic concrete, it would instead pour out this sort of fluffy, lightweight stuff that looks like sawdust. And because there are no power tools, there are no cables everywhere. It actually makes for a very, very healthy, very safe building site.
What we want to do in a building is create a wall that welcomes water but doesn't rot when it lets the water in, and that's exactly what hempcrete does. When humidity changes in the air outside, the wall can take on that extra humidity and hold it until the humidity drops outside, and then it will let it back out. The hempcrete in this building, this one building alone, will sequester 20,000 pounds of carbon. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
And then another very promising usage is the fact that you can make a very good quality paper, even better quality than the one that we can get out of trees. And again, the yield of paper of 1 acre of hemp is going to be way higher, about 4 or 5 times higher than the same terrain used for trees. And also remember that trees take a long time to grow, whereas hemp you can have 1, 2, maybe even 3 crops per year. And so it's amazing the fact that we could actually be replacing all that, and we won't need to cut trees anymore, which will be really good for the environment. And on top of that, this plant captures 5 times more CO2 than the average tree, which is amazing. And another very interesting usage is the ability to create also plastics. And imagine making plastics out of a plant which is biodegradable. So having water bottles or plastic bags made of hemp is going to yield you a product that is not going to just clutter the environment and pollute the oceans and find its way and start killing all the sea animals like plastic bags and bottles are doing today. These bottles and plastics made out of hemp are going to be biodegradable. So it's uncanny, and it's amazing that we have access to a plant like this, and hopefully we'll see more of these in the future. And then going to the very top of the plant, which is the leaf and the flowers and the buds and the seeds, you can make oil out of the seeds, and this oil has been historically used to create oils and varnishes, lubricants, solvents, ethanol, which is an alcohol which can also be used as a fuel. And the oil of the seeds is now today sold as this. And I take this every day. It's an amazing nutritional element because it has a full spectrum of your omega fatty acids, so the omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. So no need to take fish oils anymore. This is a more bioavailable and more earth-friendly way to get your omegas in your diet. And not only that, you're gonna get all the medicinal properties of hemp because it contains the cannabidiol, the CBD that I mentioned earlier. So just 1, 2, maybe even 3 teaspoons a day of this oil, it will be perfect. The only way I wouldn't recommend to use it is to cook with it. I'd rather just keep it in the fridge and then just either have it straight as a teaspoon, or you can use it as a salad dressing in a vinaigrette, or whichever other way you can think of, as long as you don't heat it up. When you heat it up is when these compounds denature, they become less strong. And that's exactly what happens when people smoke marijuana. If you smoke it for recreational or spiritual purposes to get a high, I mean, that's your decision. Medicinally speaking, smoking it is the least effective way to deliver the medicinal properties to the plant, to your body. Because when you heat tetrahydrocannabinol or CBD, they change and they are not as effective anymore. Another form that you can find hemp in your local health food store is protein powder. And this protein powder, I'm not trying to promote any brands per se, I was just blown away by the ingredients. It's very good to find, products in the market that don't have any fillers, gums, colors, preservatives, or even sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. And for example, this guy here has just hemp protein, it has spirulina, chlorella, kale, barley grass, wheatgrass, alfalfa, broccoli, cabbage, spinach, wakame, matcha, and vanilla bean and monk fruit. So nothing at all that I would not recommend you to have. So it's a good way to get some more protein intake in your diet, and also a lot of greens in your diet as well. In case you are struggling to get some greens in your diet, I would try to find a product like this. As I say, you might even find this product where you live. Just try to find something close. And as I always say, remember, I don't care much about the marketing of the product, not even the nutritional value right here, but check the tiny print, which is the ingredients, which is what I just read to you. If you find a lot of gums and fillers, or I'm not a fan of whey in protein because it's not really good for you in general. I would try to go to a more plant-based protein powder, and this is a great alternative, if not the best that I ever seen. Another way you can consume hemps is just the seeds themselves, and you can have them as a snack just like this, or just put them on your salad or your smoothie. I actually combine the three of these in smoothies every morning, which is fantastic. And you can also find shampoos, soaps, toothpaste, gums, like chewing gums, and many other things and presentations. It's very exciting to see that this plant is getting more attention in the natural world, and as its legality gets more clear and more organized in many countries, I expect and I really hope that we're going to see more and more of this plant. So hemp today is being used to lower blood pressure, lower stress, anxiety, combat PTSD, seizures, migraines, insomnia. So if you have a hard time falling asleep, or if you have a hard time paying attention during the day, this plant, hemp, CBD, has a biphase function, which is at night is going to help you go to bed and sleep good without any nightmares or waking up during the night. And during the day, it's going to actually make you feel more alert and awake, and it's going to help you to learn and to remember things. So if you're a student or you need to pay attention for long periods of time, hemp and CBD are going to be your allies. And in many countries, marijuana is legally used to treat cancers and people with a lot of pain, as I mentioned before. It has been demonstrated time and time again that this plant has the ability to induce cancer cell apoptosis, which is the cancer cell suicide. So all your cells have a lifespan and they all work as a team. You are the higher purpose for all your cells, and they want to keep you alive and well. So when these cells grow old, they know it's time for them to go to give way to the next generation of cells, and they're happy to do so because, as I say, they're working to keep you healthy. Cancer cells go rogue. They don't form a part of your society, of your team anymore, and they start just leaching nutrients and blood supply from everybody else, and they just keep on reproducing, which they shouldn't. So instead of going and commit suicide, they just keep growing and reproducing, and this is how tumors grow, and they spread and they metastasize. The CBD within hemp has a property to induce cancer cell apoptosis, so it will stop these cells to continue proliferating and reproducing endlessly, and it's gonna cause them to commit suicide, and the tumors will start shrinking because of this. And for this reason, it has been studied very extensively for the treatment of cancer. Hopefully we'll see more and more studies and more medicines based in this plant in the future, but at least you can still get hemp products around, which is really what I focus on. I never smoked marijuana. I don't really care much for that aspect of this plant. It's perfectly fine if you find that an enjoyable thing to do, but me as a naturopath and a herbalist, I'm very excited and curious to be able to work with this plant to extract the medicinal properties, whichever way is the best, either in tinctures, in oils, ointments, or in these forms as in food itself. Have you ever seen hemp used in a different way other than the one I talked about today? Let us know and stay tuned. Very happy today to be back, and a big shout out to My Health Association and all you guys. I love you guys. It's great to be back, and I'll hope to see you again very soon. Namaste.